You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks one-on-one with Keith Engle. My guest in a couple of minutes will be Ernie DiGregorio, former standout All-American basketball player at Providence. Played with Marvin Barnes, Dave Gavitt, made it to the Final Four in 1973. Later was rookie year with the Braves. Was off to a great NBA start, and injuries happen, and we'll talk to Ernie about all of that. Also has a book out, which let me share with you real quick. A Star with a Broken Heart, which is, I think, came out, I want to say last year, but we'll talk to Ernie about that. Plus, he's written some other books, I have found out as well. Ernie's still working on his camera, but hopefully he'll have it on. If he doesn't, we'll have audio and a blank screen, which isn't always the worst thing. As long as we can talk to Ernie, we don't care. Hopefully they'll get the camera fixed. Everybody wants to see everybody's beautiful faces these days, including mine, right? Quick hello to everybody watching today on TGI Sports Talk's Facebook, YouTube feeds. Also, of course, Roku, the National Streaming Sports Roku channel. Get those Roku channels downloaded. Again, Roku app. Look for National Streaming Sports, the channel, and just download it. I know a bunch of you have done it. Quick shout out to the sports authorities and John Gonzalez and the Bottom Line Sports group with Flo and the gang. Golf Buds with Ken Krause, which it's Golf Buds and Sports and More. See Ernie's still flashing down there. And of course, Ralph Williams at RW Media. We'll be on with Ralph on the 3rd. As they return with the Sports Corner it goes from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday on Facebook and YouTube on the RW Media sites. I'll be guesting at 4:30, I think 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is, on the 3rd. That's Tuesday after Labor Day. And then a quick, this show and all the shows on National Streaming Sports are brought to you in part by Bet Us. Get over there and check that out. Go to where is that? I want to get you the National Streaming Sports site correctly. Come on, where are you? NESSP.info. You can go to BetUs and you can say BetUS, Bet Us, and you can listen. You got futures you can bet. I already got my Notre Dame future bet in for college football. We got college football galore this weekend, which we'll be talking about on the Sunday Stream Consciousness and whatnot. And lots of savings to be done there. They're going to give you some free money to bet with when you get started. But go through the Northeast Streaming Sports site, and obviously it's good for them. And who knows, maybe even me. But with no further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest today, Mr. Ernie DiGregorio. We may not see his face, but we're going to hear him, hopefully. Can you hear me, Ernie? Uh-oh. Let's see. We don't have any volume or So Ernie, you can't hear me. Ernie had a little trouble. He called me just before the show and we were trying to get him in. And he's left, and hopefully he'll come back or give me a call. Maybe what I'll have to do is I'll crank him up on the phone if I have to, and see if it'll work that way. And you guys can kind of give me a heads up whether we hear him or not. Ernie was a standout, as I said. I want to get into him about his time at Providence, playing for the great coach Dave Gavitt, who was not only a great basketball coach, but the brains and the founder of the Big East. We got Ernie, we got picture, we got everything. Ernie, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry I didn't have the AV club available for you this morning, but
I'm ready.
It's funny. I used to always make fun of those audiovisual club guys in high school. Now I wish I didn't. I wish I had them around. So, how are you this morning?
Doing great. Went for my 3-mile walk with my wife and iced my knee a little bit, and ready to rock and roll with you.
I'm so happy you joined us today. 3 miles. I had all I could do to get down the stairs to my office this morning, for crying out loud.
Yeah, my wife made me a milkshake last night, a chocolate milkshake, so I had to move around.
Ernie, I was mentioning at the top, and we'll get into the book that you wrote. The one of the books you wrote, the most recent. I think it's your most recent book. I put it up before. I don't know if you saw it. Star with a Broken Heart, which covers your time, I know, at Providence and in the NBA. And we're going to cover a lot of that stuff today. But I've tried to buy. I haven't been able to buy the book yet. Amazon doesn't seem to have it. I don't understand why. But
Yeah,
and
the only people that carry it, believe it or not, is the Providence College bookstore. So if
Get out.
anybody buy the book, it's not on Amazon, because Providence College is my partner, and they
Right.
do shipping and they take in all the orders. So if
Oh,
you wanted the book, all they have to do is Google the Providence College bookstore, and they have an app where they can actually have me personalize and autograph it to them, and they mail it out the next day. But we've sold a lot of books, especially to the 11 to 10,000 season ticket holders. So business is good.
well, that's awesome. I wish I'd known that before. I would have been able to get the book read before I read you, because I had you on here, because I really like to do that, and I love those types of books. So let's jump right in here. So you're from Providence, obviously, as we can tell with the New England accent. You're from somewhere around there. As you're growing up, you played on a really good high school basketball team, state champions and whatnot. Basketball, was that your main sport all the time? Did you play other sports when you're in high school or anything?
No, I just played basketball. But when I was 12 years old, I played Little League baseball. And I hit a home run my first time up when I was 12. And then I never hit another home run. But baseball, I had to go get a whole bunch of kids to play, and I could never get them. So one day I picked up a basketball. I said, this is a lot easier, just me, a basketball, and a hoop. And that's when I fell in love with basketball.
That's cool. Sorry, go ahead.
At 12 years old,
Yeah.
I switched from baseball when the Little League season was over to play basketball all the time.
You were such a great ball handler. Were you one of those kids who just carried a ball around with you the whole time and was about dribbling everywhere you went? Was that how you were as a kid or not?
And that's exactly what I did. I walked from my house to my elementary school, which was probably a half mile. And every time I'd bounce the ball and pretend someone was in front of me trying to steal it, and I'd cross over and I'd spin, I'd go between my legs, I'd go behind my back. And so from doing that for so many years and so many hours, I used to play eight hours a day, a lot by myself. The ball became an extension of my arm, and I became a really good dribbler.
Who was your early influences? Who were your hero? Who did you watch? I'm guessing I know who you were watching, being from Rhode Island and Providence, but who were you watching as a kid and rooting for, and who are your heroes?
Well, when I was a kid, the only show in town was Providence College on TV. And so I watched Jimmy Walker, who is Jalen Rose's dad, play Providence. And, he averaged 30 points a game. And when he came out of Providence, when he was a senior, he was the number one pick in the NBA draft. So he was my hero, the guy that I would watch play and then go to the park and practice the same moves that he did.
You also didn't you write a book about Jimmy Walker or with Jimmy Walker?
Yeah, I did. I wrote a tabletop book with Jimmy Walker, and he became a good friend of mine, later in his life. And he passed away about 3 or 4 years ago, but he was a great player. I mean, I've seen him score 50 points in Madison Square Garden, a couple of times. So he was the real deal.
I knew the name. He's one of those guys that it feels like it's forgotten when we talk about great basketball players. And I went back and I looked at some of the numbers, and they really are eye-popping in a lot of ways, for sure.
Well, when he got drafted by Detroit, they had Dave Bing, Syracuse's Dave. So, the ball never really went to Walker. He was more of an off guard. And when he played at Providence and did all those miraculous things, he had the ball in his hands. So when you take the ball out of his hands, he's not going to be the same player.
Yeah. Not a big Celtic fan growing up?
Not really. I mean, I liked them. I listened to all the games, and I admired Russell and Havlicek. I used to like the Lakers with Jerry West. He was a great scorer. I used to watch him play a lot, and Oscar Robertson. And then when I played, I admired Calvin Murphy, Nate Archibald,
Yeah.
They were all great players to play against.
And you got to play against all the as you progressed through high school. Was there any doubt you were going to be going to Providence to college, or were there other opportunities? I'm sure there were other opportunities or other considerations for Ernie.
Yeah, no, I never even visited another college because I seen the impact that the PC teams made in the community, and I'm a big family guy, and I wanted my mother and my father and my girlfriend and my brothers and my sisters to watch me play, and my friends. So I had my mind made up, when I was a senior in high school. But I had to go to prep school a year because I didn't have 2 years of college preparatory courses. And after that year in prep school, I went right to Providence.
Again, did you live at home? Did you live on? How did that work? And when there's not a lot of guys you talk to that were like down the street, I guess, from the college they went to.
Yeah, I lived at home, and I enjoyed it. I still tease the people at PC. About a month ago, I had lunch in the cafeteria for the first time. 4 years I went to school there. I ate home every time.
It's funny. Providence has got a really good basketball history. I don't think a lot of people even realize that. I mean, your team went to the Final Four, and I know they went to another Final Four with Rick Pitino. Might be their only trips to the Final Four, but very strong teams. Even before you got there, they were independent at that time. The Big East didn't exist yet. We'll touch on that a little bit in a second. But do you feel like the East got their due as basketball schools in that era? It felt like me being a younger kid, it felt like all the focus was on UCLA, Kentucky, and these schools in the Midwest and the West Coast, and the East Coast kind of got lost. There's a lot of good basketball here.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the West, UCLA had won, I think, 11 straight NCAA championships.
Right.
They're always the powerhouse, the class of the country. So they deserve their due. I remember when Bob Lanier played for St. Bonaventure and Calvin Murphy played for Niagara. Those were two guys that really had an impact on me watching the game, and I admired their skills, their abilities.
They were contemporaries too. They would have played around, probably roughly the same time period you did in college, no?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 years before me.
They were earlier. Okay.
Against them in the NBA, Lanier with Detroit and Calvin with Houston, and they were great pro players. And when I played, Keith, there were only 16 NBA teams.
Yeah.
Where today they have 30. So there's an extra 150 players that wouldn't even been in the league in those days.
Great point. That's a great point. You go to play for a coach, Dave Gavitt, who was a great basketball coach and obviously had a great mind for business and marketing and whatnot, because he was the father basically of the Big East as we know it today. Tell us about your relationship with Dave Gavitt and what kind of coach he was to play for in person. He was to play for.
Yeah, that's basically my book. A Star with a Broken Heart. I was very with Coach Gavitt and very close to Marvin Bonds. And when they both passed away, my life was never the same. But Gavitt was really special because the first day I went to PC, I used to go up in his office all the time before I went to class and then after class. And then we'd play in the afternoons, all the players around 3 o'clock. And one day he said to me, there's a kid up at Central High School who loves to play basketball like you. I want you to go pick him up and bring him over here. And that was Marvin Bonds. So I went and picked him up. I played, 2-on-2 with him, and we were beating the seniors and everything. And that's how Marvin and Gavitt really started the whole thing. But what made Gavitt special was he wasn't a screamer or a yeller. he was a very soft-spoken guy who was treated his players with a lot of class. He was a player's coach. And the amazing thing, and I told Jay Wright when he coached at Villanova one time, when I seen him in the Marriott in Providence, that my senior year, Gavin knew I had that ability to create that most people didn't have. And Marvin could rebound. He averaged 19 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
My year, we never called a play. We just ran the break every time we stopped them on defense. Or if not, they would play. If the defense was playing man to man, we'd play pick and roll and pass and cut. And then if there were zones, we just get in the gaps and move the ball. So Jay Wright was shocked when I told him that we never ran a play.
It's too funny. Yeah, you bring up Marvin, obviously an incredible talent, and I don't know. I don't know if I want to. I don't know the word to describe him. An enigma. I don't know, but what word do you use to describe Marvin? The basketball player and Marvin the man.
Well, as a basketball player, he was, really coordinated for being 6'9". Like, first time I played with him, we played full court, and big guys, when they run, if you don't throw the ball, right at their shoulders and their hands, they won't catch it. But you could throw the ball, at Marvin's feet and whatever, and he was so coordinated, he would catch it in stride and he would score. So he was very coordinated, and he had timing, and he was a phenomenal rebounder. And then when he got to the ABA, he became a tremendous scorer. So as a basketball player, he was untouched. His Achilles heel in life was he had an addiction for drugs, and that really destroyed his strength and his life, and he really battled it. And I remember, Coach Gavin used to tell me all the time. He used to say, "Ernie D, your greatest assist was never on a basketball court. It was keeping your brother Marvin Barnes alive." And that's what the book's a lot about. It's a human story. Gavin, me, and Marvin battling the struggles, addiction, mental illness, and everyday issues that normal families have on and off the court.
Did Marvin's issues begin in college or after he got to the pros and had money in his pocket?
Right in college, he didn't even drink. He didn't smoke pot. He was straight. What happened was when he went to the pros in St. Louis, that's when it all started, and that's when he was introduced to drugs, and really got into it heavy.
Why do you think? I mean, too much too soon, money wise, and I know the ABA was throwing a lot of money at people not to go to the NBA.
Yeah, well, Marvin was crazy. I mean, he used to come over my house and have Sunday dinners with my family for years, macaroni and meatballs. So I was close to him, but he had a crazy side of him where he was never serious, and he always liked to have fun. And I guess when he, got into trying cocaine, he liked it so much, and that was it. He didn't know when to stop, and in the end, it ended up killing him. But he was a great friend, and he's terribly missed.
I did read a really, really good book. I can't remember the name of it now, about Marvin's life, and it was very interesting. It was a while ago. It's on my Kindle. For the life of me, I can't remember the title, but it was a really, really good, well done book, I thought. Do you know the Bob Costas Marvin Barnes story about the airplane flight? I always tell it wrong. I always screw it up. You got to tell this better than me.
No, the one where Marvin told Bob Costas he thought he was going to lose his job, I guess, as a radio announcer. He was the voice of the St. Louis Spirits, and Marvin said to him, "Bob, if you lose that job, you can, I'll hire you as my bodyguard or to work personally." Costas always remembered it. They became really good friends for years, and I remember, when Marvin was battling addiction, he'd have some tough times, and then he'd go like 11, 12 years being straight, and he'd have this rebound foundation where he'd go to schools and even the governor's office and the state of Rhode Island was 100% behind him, where he'd go in and tell kids why you can't use drugs, and his story, how he was been to jails and stuff like that. And so he really battled it his whole life. But in the end, drugs are so powerful that stories where people lose to drugs.
It's a sad, sad story. Actually, the story I was thinking of, there was an airplane story where they were in an airport when they were playing for the Spirit, and they were only flying to like Kentucky, and it was less than an hour flight. And Costa says he walked up to Marvin, who was staring at the monitor, the arrivals and departures, and he's looking at his flight, and they were leaving at 11 something, and they were getting there at 10. And he says to Bob, I don't know about you, but I ain't getting in no time machine.
Yeah, I remember. I could tell you a million stories about Marvin Bonds. Like in my book, I got a ton of them. And one of my favorites was when he was in jail in Rhode Island, because when he played with Detroit, for some stupid reason, he tried to go through the scanning device to get on a plane with a gun. And so they put him on probation. And I guess from the incident when he was in college, when he had the tire iron incident with one of the players. So he had to go to jail when he got out of, when the season ended. So he calls me up and he says to me, Ernie, the guys want you guys to come down and play basketball. Can you get a couple of guys? So we went to the prison and we played 5-on-5. And the first thing Marvin said was, I got Ernie D on my team. He told the other prisoners, you can have Stakem. So Stakem went on their team, and we killed them the first game, 21-7. And Kevin couldn't hit the broadside of a bomb door. And Marvin said, run it back. And we ran it back. And Kevin, shooters keep shooting. And he was shooting, and he still couldn't make anything. The prisoners were getting mad, and they wanted to fight Kevin. So Kevin said, I just came here to, have some fun. Let's get the hell out of here. So it was a funny, funny story.
It's funny. It is funny. 73, I mean, is this, I don't know. I'm assuming one of your favorite memories. You guys make it to the Final Four. You're playing Memphis, and Marvin gets hurt early in that game, and you guys end up losing to Memphis and not going further. I mean, it was a really good team. Do you think you guys would have beaten, I'm guessing you think you would have beaten at least Memphis if Marvin hadn't gotten hurt?
Yeah, we were 16 points ahead.
Yeah.
Dick McGuire, who was a great player for the Knicks, and he was a scout then, told Coach Gavitt that was the best 12 minutes of basketball he ever seen in his life, because we were running the break, running it down their throat. I was throwing 3/4 length behind the back passes, in the tournament, and it was really special. And then Marvin stepped on one of the Memphis players' feet, and he twisted his knee, and his knee locked up on him, so he couldn't play. So we couldn't rebound, so we lost. But UCLA, we had played earlier in the year out in California, and with 11 minutes to go, we were 12 down. So we were competing with them. And the fact that we had played them once at their home court, and we had beat Maryland, who was a pretty good team, to get to the Final Four.
Yeah.
When we went to the Final Four, we were playing with a lot of confidence.
You think you would have given UCLA a game in that final? Because that's the game Walton was unbelievable, right?
Yeah,
20 and 22.
22.
Yeah.
I did that against Marvin. He wouldn't have shot 21 for 22.
There you go.
But we would have definitely given him a game, because we weren't scared of him. The first time we played him, I had 14 assists and 20-something points. And they asked John Wooden after, what did you think of that guy, Ernie D? And John Wooden said, I think he's very good, but he's not my kind of player, because I would throw it behind my back and dribble it between my legs. So we were definitely ready for UCLA, but when you lose the guy who averages 20 rebounds a game, it's a whole different ball game.
That's a shame. You obviously were really good all 3 years in college. Did you have a desire, or did you try? I couldn't find the information. Did you try to get on the 72 Olympic team?
Yeah, they picked like I forgot like 40 or 50 players invited,
Yeah.
and I always would tease Marvin that Gavitt was his father and Marvin was his number one son because he'd always do something for him. And Gavitt got Marvin a tryout, but he didn't get me a tryout. So it was really added motivation for me when I practiced, all those hours, and I had the goal of being an NBA player to keep working at it. That just put more fuel in the fire because, you can't go from not one of the top 40 players picked and then in the draft be the third guy picked. It doesn't
Right.
make it.
Well, you did get a chance to play in a college all-star game after the Olympics with Bill Walton and some other great players, and you actually beat the Soviets, which we all know what happened in the '72 Olympics in the final against the Soviets. But you guys went that later that year and beat them.
Yeah, we played a 6-game series. Russia came to America. We worked out for a week in L.A. Bob Cousy was our coach, and we played in San Diego. Walton played the first game, and I would throw him a pass, and it would be like throwing a little kid a Nerf ball. The basket was so easy for him to dunk,
Yeah.
but the kept going for his knees, and he got hurt the first game and never came back because they would have, it was very physical series. Then we played in L.A., we played in Albuquerque, we played a game in Madison Square Garden, we played in Indiana, and we beat them 5 out of 6 games. So it was a good series, and it really helped my bargaining position for my contract when I went in the NBA because the game in Madison Square Garden was on national TV, and I played pretty well.
I definitely want to get to the NBA, but before I get there, thinking about college then and college now, I mean, how much money would Ernie D and Marvin be getting in NIL money if the rules were like they were today?
Well, that guy, the left-handed kid who played, I think it was Dickerson, played for Kansas last year.
Yeah.
He got $5 million. So if he got $5 million, we would have definitely got in the millions. But I don't know if Providence could have paid us the money that.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Actually, assuming there was that opportunity, because now it's not just NIL money. They've got real money. They can just say, here's $2 million, come to school here, right? With this $21 million budget every school has. If somebody else had offered you more money, could it have enticed you to go somewhere else besides Providence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Money over that. Well, Providence is going to pay you, $500,000, and someone's going to give you $6 million. I mean,
that's a no-brainer.
Right.
That's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Whole object when we played basketball, Marvin and I, we used to run around the gym, and Gavin used to say, "Okay, let's do laps before we even start." And so when we run, I'd always get in a lead, and Marvin would come up to me and say, ED, we're running for the BR, we're running for the bankroll. So we were running to make money. We were playing to get that national exposure because ESPN was not around then. And to get on national television, you had to win. So we knew we had to win, and we knew winning would get us that exposure and eventually get us drafted high in the NBA. I went third in '73, and Marvin went second in '72. So two guys from Rhode Island going third in the NBA and second in the NBA is pretty good.
That is pretty good. Is Providence hampered today because of the NIL and the rules we have? You mentioned you didn't know if they'd be able to pay you guys. And they've still held up pretty well, I think, the program.
They are. I know last year they said in the paper they were paying over $1 million to their players, and I would think they're paying more this year. But they got some talent. They got a heck of a coach. This guy Kim English, who I have a lot of respect for. He's a really hard worker, former player, and he really relates to the kids. And he's got some serious talent this year. You got like 3 7-footers or 3 guys 6'10" over, that are going to play, and a couple of wing guys that are pretty tough. So they're going to be good.
Well, your old coach was instrumental in putting together the Big East. You were about 6 or 7 years too early to get there. Do you wish you get to have that exposure? I mean, you went third in the draft, so I don't know how much more it could have helped you. But do you wish you got a chance to play in that Big East?
Keith, I really am not a big advocate or someone who likes the 3-point play, because when I go to the games, I watch these teams that they are told not to take the mid-range jumper. And when I played with John Havlicek with the Celtics, that's all we did was to look for that shot. That was the best shot. When I played for Gavin at Providence, if I took a long shot like that, he'd blow the whistle and stop practice and say, look, we can always get a shot like that. We want to move the ball and get the best shot. So my best part of my game was, creating, beating my guy and setting up my teammate for an easy shot. And if they had that 3-point line over there, I would be just stopping and shooting, and I wouldn't look to pass. So I was glad when I played.
That's good. Well, as we said, you go in the NBA draft, number 3 to Buffalo. You stay in the Northeast. Were you happy to stay there? I mean, I would think cities like Buffalo and Providence might have some similarities. You can obviously speak to that better than I can, just looking from the outside. Were you happy to be going to Buffalo at that point?
I really didn't know much about Buffalo, but it's amazing because I loved it. The people are the greatest fans you're ever going to find. I mean, they love their teams, and you can see it with the Buffalo Bills, and the Sabres. So when I played with the Braves, I still have a lot of good friends from the days I played there, and I actually get back to Buffalo 10 or 12 times a year.
Really?
I was back about 2 months ago. I had a press conference, to announce my book, and I actually met 2 times with the movie commissioner to talk about doing a movie in Buffalo on my book. So I got a lot of friends there. The fans are great, and I really love playing there.
Is that movie still a possibility?
Oh, yeah. It's really close. I'm talking to a lot of movie people. Rhode Island movie commissioner has told me he read the book and said it's an A+ movie with an A+ producer and an A+ director. So they're interested. And I'm in the process of finishing up the screenplay so I can send it to other movie people. But I got a screenwriter in LA who said to me, it's a cross between Rudy and Hoosiers. And he loved the book. So you got to read the book. You're going to love the book.
Well, I'm going to, after we get done here, I'm going to go to that website and order it for sure. Listen, now I got to ask you, because since this is so close to being a reality, who do you want to play Ernie DiGregorio in this movie?
That's a good question. Do you remember Mike Reardon?
Yes, absolutely.
Reardon's a good friend of mine. I talk to him all the time. He was Walker's teammate. And the funny story about him is his coach, Joe Mulaney, said to him, his senior year, Mike said, Joe, I need your advice. I have a guaranteed teacher's job at one of the high schools, or I can go in the Eastern League and work my way up to the NBA. What do you think? He said, Mike, take the teaching job. And Reardon didn't listen to him, and he went on to have a great, NBA career.
He
won
did.
an championship with the Knicks, and I don't know if he won one with the Bullets, but I know he was in the finals.
But, he definitely had a really good career. I was a Knicks fan, so I remember that. Yeah.
So he said to me, this guy, Alvarado, who plays for, I don't know if it's New Orleans or Memphis, a little god, he says he would be good to play you in the movies. But I don't know. We haven't got that far yet, but we're close to making it a reality, I promise you.
Well, that's awesome. That is really awesome. So back to Buffalo, you get there, and we had a question from Chris, which is germane. I would have asked you anyway. What are your first impressions of Jack Ramsey when you get there? He's an old school coach, and Buffalo hadn't had a lot of success before you got there. Jack got there. What was that like?
So they had this guy, Bob McAdoo, who was a scorer machine.
He could play a little bit.
Yeah, and my first year, when I was playing in that Russian series, Ramsey flew down to LA and told me, I can't give you the job, the point guard. You got to earn it. I said, no, I get it. So we played a game, at the end of our training camp, the veterans with Jimmy McMillan, Randy Smith, McAdoo, Bob Kaufman, bunch of guys against me and a bunch of rookies. And we beat them, and I had 34 points. And after that, I earned, the point guard position. I loved Ramsey in the beginning. He let me do my thing, pass the ball. I was more of a passer than a scorer, even though I averaged 15 points a game, and we had 5 guys that averaged over 15 points. We had Jimmy McMillan, who was a great scorer. We had Matt, who could shoot it from everywhere. Randy Smith could score. And then we had Garherd, and then we had Jack Marin coming off the bench. So we had a lot of firepower. And the first year, we took the Celtics 6 games in the playoffs, and we lost in Buffalo on a controversial call with no time on the clock. Mendy Rudolph blew the whistle and put JoJo White on the line for 2 shots. So we lost that game by 2 points. But if one play here or there, we would have took Boston 7 games, and they won the NBA championship that year. So we had a great team. My second year, I tore my cartilage, making a pass out in Golden State. And, I never played much that year. At the end of the year, Ramsey decided, he wasn't going to let me play in the playoffs. And Buffalo played Washington and beat them the first round. And then the third year, we had we took Boston again, 6 games in the NBA playoffs. So we had we had 3 rookies of the year. We had Adrian, McAdoo, and myself. So we had some talent.
Two of those years in the playoffs, you went to the conference finals, I think, and lost to once to the Celtics, maybe once to Washington, I think. That's pretty. Was there something missing that didn't allow you to get over the top, you think, or those teams were just better and you were not going to be able to do that?
Yeah, it was close. I mean, I remember the first game we played the Celtics out in Boston my first year, and we were up like 8 points in the quarter. When the fourth quarter, the first game, and then he pulls me out, and he pulls I don't know who else out. But we blew the 8-point lead, and we ended up losing by a couple. So they were back and forth. Like I tell people, Collins hated to cover McAdoo because McAdoo could take him outside, and big guys aren't. But then on the other side, McAdoo didn't want to play Collins inside because he had that jump hook. One game, I think he exploded for like 18 points in the fourth quarter. So he was a monster too. He was a great player. So they had a great team. Celtics were loaded.
Yeah. Those Boston Braves teams were good too. I mean, you mentioned your injury after you were rookie of the year and had a great rookie season. You hurt your knee in your second season, and going forward, you didn't play quite as much. The numbers weren't as good. Was it the injury? Was Jack Ramsey? Did he kind of move away from you because of the injury? Other factors? What? Yeah. How do you feel about those times after that?
He definitely, didn't play me as much. In the after I got hurt. But my third year, I didn't play much the whole year, but in the playoffs, we were playing Boston, and they beat us 2 straight. And in the third game, he put me in, and I had something like 14 assists, and we beat him in Buffalo. And the McAdoo told the media, the difference was Ernie D, the way he moved the ball and stuff. And then I started after that, the fourth game, and had like 14 points in the fourth quarter against the Celtics, and we beat them again. And then they beat us the next 2. But Ramsey got fired after that because the owner was saying, if the guy could do it in the playoffs, why the hell didn't he play the whole season? So Jack and I really were, weren't great friends. I didn't like it. No player likes when they get benched. But the opposite of it was, in the end, years later, when he got sick with cancer. I called him, and we buried the hatchet, and we talked, and we became good friends, and I became close to him right until when he passed away. And that made me feel good because he was a great guy.
That's awesome. That's a great story. Jack had made out all right when he got fired because he went to Portland and won a championship the very next year. So he made out all right as it goes.
He could coach. He knew what he was doing. I mean,
Yeah.
he said something to me I'll never forget. In fact, I still have some of the old plays that he drew up when we were in training camp. And he used to tell me, Ernie D, when we start our offense, we want to start it at the top of the key. So when you hit McMillan and get it back and he runs off McAdoo's pick, at the foul line extended, and then you bring the ball on the other side and or go 2-on-2 with McAdoo or swing it on the other side for a jump shot for Randy Smith. If we're only at the top of the key, the next pass is always a good shot. But now that they got that 3-point play, all that stuff you can throw in the garbage because they don't even want to take medium shots or layups. They want 3-point shots.
It feels like, it does feel like to me, like the game for a long time was like one-on-one and all this isolation stuff, which really got boring. But I feel like there's more ball movement. I feel like an Ernie D would be better today than maybe 10 years ago because the good teams, I think, move the ball. They look for the good 3-point shot. They don't look for that mid-range shot, as you said. But do you think you could play today? Not at your age. I meant if you're 25.
No, if I was coming out of college, of course, because like I said, when I played, there were only 16 teams.
Yeah.
There was 140 guys that wouldn't even be in the league. The thing that I don't like about today's game is nobody runs a fast break anymore. In the old days, Walton would get an outlet pass and he'd throw it, or Marvin would hit me on a move in the middle. Or now they're not looking to get layups. They want to swing the ball for 3-point shots. And when you're a player, confidence is the most important thing when you play basketball. And it's a lot easier to make a layup with nobody on you than taking a 3-point shot with a hand in your face 25 feet away. That's the only thing I don't like about the game. I understand guys are great shooters and all that, but there's more to the game. How could Julius Erving, the way he played, not take the ball to the basket? I mean, he's had a skill that was, no one could ever do that in the history of basketball, like maybe Elgin Baylor and some guys. But imagine telling that guy you can't drive and you just got to shoot jump shots. You're taking away one of the most phenomenal players in the history of the game. That's why I don't like it.
That's a great point. Do you watch the NBA today at all?
Yeah, I watch it, but I mean, I don't get into it like. I believe the players deserve all the money in the world. But, did you see the contract they just gave Stephon Curry for 1 year?
I did.
$65 million. That's
crazy.
I mean, to me, that's a lot of money, and I get it. He deserves it because, they're making it. But he's just going to shoot 3-point shots all the time, right?
Pretty much that's his game, yeah.
I can't only watch it so long.
Yeah, I get you. So after Dr. Jack leaves, I mean, things in Buffalo don't go well either for anybody, I guess. Tate's Lock becomes a coach, and the team kind of goes the wrong direction. Well, tell us a little bit about the end of your.
When Snyder Donor makes the deal with John White Brown to sell a team, then everybody knew their goose was cooked. Because you out of college, Kentucky drafted me in the ABA, and my lawyer was negotiating with John Y. Brown. And when I went with Buffalo, I knew he didn't like that. So when he became part owner, I knew my days in Buffalo were numbered. And I was traded at my 5th year to the LA Lakers.
At that point, were you happy to leave Buffalo because of the situation? Yeah.
It wasn't any fun. They were bringing players in like a revolving door, and you knew that Brown had one goal, which was to move the team out of Buffalo.
Well, they hadn't done the whole team swap that they did with the Celtics at that point, had they? Remember, they kind of swapped the teams. Didn't John White Brown end up owning the Celtics?
Yeah, that's what they did.
Yeah.
I think they did that the year I left.
That was after, yeah. So actually, it brings up a good point. You get to L.A., totally different experience, L.A. and Buffalo. Obviously, playing with some other great players, namely Kareem, for one. Your experience there was short, 25, 30 games. I don't remember exactly. Tell us about your time in LA. Was it disappointing because of not getting a better chance to play more, or what was the situation there?
The thing was, remember now, when I came into the league, I signed one of the biggest contracts for like $2 million.
Right.
And you had guys like Jerry West who played all those years, and they were playing for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. So when he used to play in Buffalo with the Lakers, my buddy Kermit Washington used to tell me that he used to tell the players before the game, who the hell is this guy making all this money, blah, blah, blah. Well, make a long story short, when I got traded to the Lakers, the owner of the Lakers, Jack Kent Cook, called me up. And he said, we're really excited to have you as a Laker. I admire your work ethic. You're going to be a great addition to Los Angeles, and we look for a great career with you. I said, beautiful. I can't wait. So they're having a press conference in L.A. I take my brother with me. We fly out. We get to the press conference, and the first question the reporters say to me is, do you notice something? I said, yeah, I noticed it. The coach wasn't there. Jerry West was pissed off, and he never showed up at the press conference. So if the coach doesn't show up at your press conference,
bad sign.
Players are slim and none.
Yeah.
So I got a shot there, no matter how good I could play, because it would have been a piece of cake throwing a ball into Jabbar. They double team him. You move to the open spot. And I was a 90% career free throw shooter. I could make those shots all day. But West was never going to play me. So
That's
I knew.
a shame.
And one day he turns around, and in the NBA you got 5 guards. Cheney and Don Cheney sprains his ankle, and Brad Davis breaks his wrist. So now they have to play me. And I called my lawyer up and I said, Jerry West wants to meet with me before practice. He said, well, tell him. I said, what do you mean tell him? He said, tell him how you feel. I said, really? I can tell him? He said, yeah. So we get in this room, and, here's my childhood hero. He's got a program rolled up, and he's saying to me, Ernie D, there's in the meantime, in the LA Times, in the newspaper, headlines used to be in the sports section, $1 million bench warmer. And so he says to me, Ernie D, there's a great opportunity to play for the Los Angeles Lakers. And I said to him, well, Jerry, can you tell me something? He said, what's that? I said, well, why haven't I played in the first 25 games, a total of 15 minutes? And he looked shocked. And I said, I'll tell you. I said, you had no confidence in my ability, and I'll never forget it. The next day I was cut. I was waived.
Well, you can only speak your mind to a certain point, apparently.
Yeah, but I was happy because I wanted to get the hell out of there. That's no fun. Yeah. Working your tail off, getting in great shape, running the beaches, being like in the best shape you are in college, and then you don't get a fair shot. You know what I mean? That wasn't any. So then I went home, and I said to my lawyer, I'm done. Well, he said, well, the Celtics just called up, and they want to give you a 10-day contract, because that's what they used to do in those days. And I said, no, I'm all set. He said, well, I would play if I was you, because the Lakers can turn around and try not to pay you the money they owe you, because they'd say you didn't really try. But if you go play for the Celtics, they can't say that. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to the Celtics. I went to the Celtics, and one of my favorite stories is the Celtics would play, games of 7. They wouldn't have any analytical people. They'd throw the ball up, and whoever won the game would stay out there. So Havlicek's team won, and so I get out there to play the second game, and I'm standing next to Havlicek, and Havlicek says to me, Ernie D, you better play your best. Red's got a keen eye on you. He's really watching you. So I looked over to Auerbach, and he was fast asleep sitting in the stands.
Oh, jeez.
So I said, "This is another one of those things." So I hung in there. But the greatest thing is I played in Havlicek's last game, and I fed him every pass. He could hit the broadside of a barn door, and he got the crowd went crazy. They gave him a 7-minute standing ovation when he was introduced before the game, and he to this day I still have the picture he signed to me. One more pass, Ernie D. You know, he was really great. So I had some great moments with the Celtics.
Great player. He seemed like to be a good human being too, as well. John Havlicek for sure.
Humble as that you could be. Humble.
That's awesome. So your career is kind of short, with some very good moments. Were you ready to retire at that young age? I mean, were you prepared to not be playing basketball anymore?
I was miserable. And when you're miserable and it starts affecting your health, you say to yourself, you know what? I got my wife and I got my children. I can go home and spend time with them. I had the contract where I didn't have to really work. And so that's what I did. But I kicked myself when you get older because I had a guaranteed contract from the Houston Rockets that I wouldn't even go to.
Really?
When they take the love of the game out of you, you know, then it's not fun. So, you know, I had to do what was good for my health and what made me happy. But I was definitely not happy, you know, sitting the bench. And, you know, after all the things I accomplished, after I had the knee injuries, I scored 36 points against the Phoenix Suns. So I was capable of doing a lot of things. But, you know, it wasn't in the cards. And, you know, like my wife always says, God had different plans for me.
What were those plans after? So you spend time with your family, and I know you've written some children's books with your wife. I believe I noticed. What has kept Ernie busy over the last, now too many years?
Yeah, well, for 18 and a half years, I was the celebrity host at the world's biggest casino, Foxwoods Resort Casino.
Oh, really?
And that was fun. I enjoyed it. But after 18 years, that's enough. I'm really excited now because, you know, I have my 7 grandchildren and I have one on the way. You know, I have 4 daughters. I've been married 51 years. And I got my book that I'm really proud of. And I'm working with my partner, Providence College. I'm making this movie a reality. So it's a challenging, just like it was in basketball. But it's like anything else. What you put in it and how much hard work and those goals, that's how you succeed. So it's a challenge for me, but I'm really excited doing it every single day.
That's awesome. Are there more books in your future, Ernie?
Well, you know, I got a little children's nursery rhyme book, Miley's Big Shot, that, you know, I can publish that. But I have a habit, Keith, of going from one thing to the other. And I got this Star with a Broken Heart really rolling, you know,
Yeah.
with the media, with the movie people. And I'm working on the screenplay. And so I got to stick to that. But my wife always tells me my little children's nursery rhyme is my best book. It's really good for little young kids to, you know that you can't be scared or afraid if people make fun of you. And you just got to keep trying and you will reach your goals.
That's awesome. Great. Those are great words to live by for sure. I got a couple questions from the audience I didn't get to, and I can fit a couple that I have in the middle here. A couple of people just saying hi. Rick Sherlock saying hello, Ernie. He saw you play in Buffalo with
right.
Bob McAdoo. So that must have been a fun time. I watched. I was a Knicks fan, and I kind of always wish Ernie D got to play with the Knicks myself. But
I would have loved to play with New York. That was my favorite place to play. The Mecca of basketball, New York City.
It would have been awesome. Kenny Gifford says he felt you were the only one that could match up against Pistol Pete. How'd you fare against Pete?
You know what I mean? He was a great showman. And I got a funny Pete Maravich story. When I was being benched in Buffalo, we used to fly commercial. We played in Atlanta and we got beat. The next day we were in the airport to fly out of Buffalo. I was sitting on the floor listening to Bob Dylan in my headsets and my radio, and Pete taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "How you doing, Ernie D?" I said, "I'm okay, Pete." He says, "Remember one thing: once they get your confidence, it's one flew over the cuckoo's nest." And I'll never forget that.
Who was the greatest player? Two things. Who was the greatest player you played with?
In college or the pros?
I guess in college you got to be Marvin, I would think. But how about in the pros?
McAdoo was phenomenal. I mean,
yeah,
he was a gunner. He'd shoot every shot imaginable. But when he got it going, he was too big for the centers. I mean, too big for the forwards because he had those long arms and shoot over them. And then he was too quick for the centers. So, he was a scoring machine. But he shot a lot of shots, let me tell you.
And so better than Kareem, because the next question here is about your first word to Lakers. Kareem's there. You're no longer across the court from. You're in the same dressing room. Yeah. How did McAdoo and Kareem compare? I mean, at that time, Kareem was still a little withdrawn. It seemed like from the rest of the team.
He was different. Kareem had that sky hook, but he didn't rebound and he didn't like the physical play. Like I seen pictures when he played in high school film where, he was young and he was aggressive. But as he, played more and more in the pros, he just limited his game, I think, to just that sky hook, which was unstoppable. But he wasn't, all over the place. He was pretty much set up in that one place on the block, and he would shoot that shot. So McAdoo was all over the place shooting. He'd shoot anywhere. He'd run, he'd rebound, he'd block shots. He was phenomenal.
He became a great cog in that Laker team that won in the 80s coming off the bench. Bob McAdoo was a big part of that team too.
Yeah, who I really loved watching them playing against, was David Thompson for Denver. He was amazing. One time we're playing Denver and Randy was covering him and somehow I got switched off on him and he went up for a jump shot and his waist was like over my head. So figure with those long arms in the top, he was so far up just shooting a jump shot. He was phenomenal.
Well, I was going to ask you, who was the best player you ever played against? Would it be David Thompson or would you have somebody else in mind?
He's one of them. Thompson, Maravich, Calvin Murphy, Earl Monroe.
Cool.
Those guys were phenomenal.
Very good players for sure. Dave Gayette, and this, I should have brought this up I usually do ask this in a transfer. So moving from college to the pros, what was the big difference that you saw in the game itself? To the quickness or what was it?
Oh, it's physical strength. In those days, you were allowed to hand check. And hand check means if you're dribbling the ball, I could put my hand on the side of your waist and lean with all my strength, and that's not a foul. And I tell you who could do it better than anyone. That Freddie Mad Dog Carter from Philadelphia. I mean, he would be putting on me when I had the ball that I would be pushing back and there was no foul. Now you just touch somebody and they blow a whistle. You know what I mean? It's totally different.
Yeah. Great point. Dave also wants to know, did you ever think about getting into coaching or working in the front office anywhere?
I did. I coached in high school a little bit, but it was so political. Sometimes when you're a household name or a public figure, it actually works in reverse. There's a lot of people that resent people who are successful. I don't know why. And Jimmy Walker used to tell me this all the time. He'd say, basketball is the only sport you hear where coaches tell you players don't have any experience coaching basketball. Now it's changed a lot. Yeah. But those, the people who were the coaches, they wanted to get the jobs for their kids or, somebody they knew. They didn't want the players to infiltrate that market. So I had a lot working against me. Rather than people say, "Hey, he'd be a great coach," let's get him. They try to tell you, well, just because you played, that doesn't make you a great coach. But yet they'll say, if someone's the son of a coach, they think that makes him a good coach. It's crazy.
It is. Yeah, today, as you said, it's changed. A lot of the great coaches the last 30 years plus have been players for sure. Phil Jackson, Pat Riley, right?
Well, you know who was ahead of his time? Auerbach, because he made Russell the coach.
Yeah, great point. Player coach.
Russell
right?
have.
Yeah. Is there a coach? We won't talk college because I think you really love Dave Gavitt, obviously. In the pros, is there a coach you would like to have played for?
Yeah, Heinsohn. Because Heinsohn told me that next to Bob Cousy, I was the greatest passer he's ever seen. So somebody like that loved to run the break. He was the announcer for the Celtics games for years. And all he would say to Mike Gorman was, run, run, run. And that's the kind of guy is perfect for me. And a guy like Havlicek, playing on a wing, all he did was, and he loved the way I played Havlicek. So I'll never forget my last game in the playoffs against the Celtics, my rookie year. After the game, we had lost, that sixth game. Havlicek came in the locker room looking for me and told me what a great year I had and I should be proud. And, I said, that's amazing. Who would do that? That's how humble he was.
That's a great moment. Danny Fuller out in LA. He's a big Laker. I think he's a Laker fan, but he's an LA guy. He wants to know, and this is a good question, actually. Back when you played, you lost to Memphis, and then they played the consolation game. They played the third place game. They don't play it anymore. I never really got the point of it. Did you think they should play it? Would you like to see it back? Or are you happy that it's gone?
I'm happy it's gone because once you lose, you're so deep, right, that you don't get the best effort. And I'll give you an example. When we played Indiana, that year, I was playing and Gavitt pulled me out of the game. And I remember he said to me, I'm not going to let you blow everything in one game. So he knew. So I don't think it serves any purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Once as you said, once you're eliminated, then he also says top three passers of all time: Magic, Maravich, Cousy, and Ernie D. That's a pretty good group of people to be mentioned with. So.
That's great. And one of the things I say in my book is Bob Cousy said to me, Ernie D, there were three guys in the history of the game who knew before they got the ball where the ball was going with the next pass. And of course, he was one of them because he would have never said it. I was one of them he picked. You know who the third one was?
How long ago was this? He said it?
He said it like, probably right after that Russian series. So maybe 30 years.
I don't think I know.
Larry Bird.
Oh, Larry Bird. Sure. Excellent. Yes.
So that's a hell of a compliment. Cousy, right?
Yeah, that's a great compliment for sure. This one's probably, I would think this one's probably self-evident. Craziest teammate.
What was the craziest teammate?
Yeah.
Craziest? I had a lot of them. That's not really a lot of nuts. I had a lot of crazy teammates, let me tell you. But nobody was crazy than Marvin. You're right.
There you go. Right. Who would come in second? Just off the top of your head.
Let's see. I played with Buffalo. I had crazy coaches. I had crazy. I could tell you stories you wouldn't believe. Let me see. You know who was crazy? But I liked him a lot. He was a good person. Johnny Newman.
Johnny Newman. Interesting.
Yeah, for Buffalo.
Yeah, I know. When you first got there, he was there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he was crazy, but he was a good guy.
Yeah. The name I haven't heard in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Last question from the peanut gallery here, because we let Chris F. Grave wrap it up every time. You're a lifelong Providence guy. What's going on in the Providence area? What's a great place to eat? What kind of music you listening to?
Yeah, the best place to eat is the old canteen. It's right up the street from the amp when they play the game. It's on
I know
Apple.
it.
Been around for 60 years. I mean, you can get Sicilian haddock, you can get a salad, you roasted potatoes and pasta for $17.
No kidding. My sister-in-law grew up in Providence. They came from they were Portuguese. Her and my brother live in Utah now, but her family's still all back in Providence. So I've been there a few times. It's a fun city. In fact, I just went to a wedding in Providence for my step niece actually back in February. Great little town.
Yeah, Providence is great, but I love Buffalo. Let me tell you, I go there all the time.
Awesome. What's Danny got here before I wrap this up? Keith, my Dodger blue looks great on me today. I always mix up my tops for Danny and see if he can figure out which one I'm wearing. I do not wear this for the Dodgers, by the way. Just an FYI. Just the color blue. That's all. I like the color. Ernie, I appreciate it. Listen, don't forget, guys, check out the book. We'll put it up here one more time. Star with a Broken Heart. Go to Providence. We can Google the Providence bookstore, right? That's where we can order it.
Right there, the Providence bookstore. You can get them personalized too. I'll sign anything you want.
That's awesome. We'll get that done. Let me wrap it up. Ernie, if you can stay with you just for a minute when I wrap it up, I got a question for you right after, and I'll let you go. Ernie, thank you so much for your time today. I had a great time. Anything you want to leave the fans with before I say goodbye to you?
No, I appreciate being on your show, and I'll hang on and thank you and thank all the fans for listening. And without the fans, the players are nothing.
Well, there you go. That's a great sentiment to leave us with for sure. Perfect. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Ernie. Thanks for you guys and your comments and questions. We had a great time as always. I'll be back at 3 o'clock with the Major League Baseball update. Sunday Stream of Consciousness comes up 8:30 Sunday. We'll have a great time. We don't have a guest locked in for next Friday yet, but I'll update you on that as soon as possible. And we'll see you guys later. Have a great Labor Day weekend. See you guys. See you later this afternoon or Sunday morning. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Keith Engle, the host of TGI Sports Talk on the National Streaming Sports.